Come on and shine, shine, shine. Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. Join award-winning host Dale Davidson as he interviews the most remarkable people you'll find in the entertainment capital of the world. You'll meet entertainers, sports figures, newsmakers, community and business leaders, and people just like you with stories that'll touch your heart. Now, here's Dale Davidson.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. We're very pleased to have with us Kathleen Miller, who has a really fascinating story. We're going to talk about her ministry, Living Grace Homes, and we're going to get to know her much better. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, Kathleen. Living Grace Homes. How long have you been in operation here in Las Vegas?
Our first house opened on February 1st of 2007, so about 7.5 years.
Yeah, and what you're doing is you're helping pregnant young women, mostly young teenagers, would you say?
14 to 22 is our age range.
Okay, and it's essentially what used to be called a maternity home.
Correct.
So tell me, before we get into all the details, but give me a little précis and overview of Living Grace Homes and what you're trying to accomplish here.
Well, Living Grace opened to provide a roof over the head of pregnant young ladies, 14 to 22, who were either homeless or in danger of becoming homeless as a result of their pregnancy. Working in the pro-life community here in Las Vegas with one of the highest teen pregnancy rates in the country, it became more and more evident that it was a difficult thing to ask a young woman to make a choice between the life of her baby and a roof over her head. Mm-hmm. And so when a young lady decided that she was going to choose life, and somebody said, yeah, but you can't do that and live here, Living Grace Home provides that safe haven, the roof over their head, a bed, transportation, mentoring, a second chance.
It's wonderful the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a small town in Iowa, and I am the third oldest of 10 children.
Wow.
And so I have been taking care of little ones for a very long time.
And your parents were pro-life, I'm guessing.
My parents were very pro-life, yes. Yes.
And so was that experience as a youth centering to you when you decided what kind of ministry you were going to have? Did it give you a feel for what's important in life?
I never heard my parents talk about having children as first of all needing to be planned, and second of all as being some kind of burden.
Right. And never an accident.
Never an accident,
Right.
Never an oops. It was always exciting. As a matter of fact, today is one of my sister's birthdays, and she lives in Denmark. And I remember the day she was born, waiting for that phone call before ultrasound, to find out if it was a boy or a girl.
Oh,
right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And so, each new baby was, it wasn't always that exciting for the one just older who then got pushed off the lap, but for the rest of us, it was exciting to bring home a new baby.
That's sweet. Tell us about your Christian background. Did you grow up in a religious household?
I did. Mm-hmm. My parents were both active practicing Catholics. Mm-hmm. I went to Catholic elementary school and Catholic high school. Mm-hmm. I had 2 years of public education in between elementary school.
You shivered a little when you said public education.
It was traumatizing all these years later. And there was a noticeable difference between the Christian education and the public school for me.
Oh.
And I happened to have graduated in 1972, and Roe versus Wade was handed down approximately 6 months after I graduated from high school, 7 months. So the debate was raging while I was in high school, and I had a politically focused mind. The topics
early
of the day.
On,
fascinated
current events
me.
and things
Yes,
like that.
yes.
Yeah.
And so the debate that raged at that time fascinated me, and of course, being in a Catholic school, the talk about the sanctity of life and the unborn child being a gift from God, and there's no mistakes, etc., had a strong impact on me. I was pretty naive. I really just assumed that since I was at a Catholic school, everybody at my school would be pro-life, and that wasn't true then, and obviously isn't true now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I often refer to myself in terms of my Christian walk as being a born-again Catholic, because even though I'm a cradle Catholic and went to Catholic schools, I had a strong spiritual experience when I was about 32.
Is that right?
And
that's when you truly found Christ and became a Christ
follower.
Where
I really started to look at what I believed and why I believed it, and to read and study and pray and learn, and found that I just fell in love with the church that I feel Christ founded.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. What things did you notice were different in Las Vegas from a small town in Iowa? When you got out here, were you kind of surprised or
well,
shocked
I had
in
been
any way?
here briefly before, because my husband actually grew up in Henderson.
Oh, is that right?
In the 50s and
Where
60s.
we're sitting.
Right,
Yeah.
right. In the 50s and 60s, he went to basic high school, and so when our first child was about 7 months old, we moved out here briefly. When I got pregnant with our second child, I immediately said, "Take me home to Mommy. I'm not having a baby 1,500 miles away from home." So,
and Mom's an expert at
right?
this.
She was.
Right.
Yeah, she knew what it was all about, and so we went back to Iowa, and our life took us to different locales. We spent time in Iowa, Louisiana, Missouri, back in Iowa, and then got transferred out here in 1993. And so my husband came out, and I stayed back in Iowa with our children, because they were at formative years in their education, and followed him in 94.
Oh, okay.
I had been becoming more and more interested in doing pro-life work, talked about it a lot, and I had a very difficult time having children myself.
Did you?
And so after having a life threatening pregnancy, my best friend from high school ended up having an abortion, and it really threw me for a loop, and could not understand how she could have watched me go through what I went through with my pregnancy, and terminated a perfectly healthy pregnancy. And it took me a while to understand it, and it took a while before we spoke again, a couple years before we spoke again.
Really?
But I've always given Beth credit for really galvanizing my determination to speak out for the unborn.
And you certainly have in several different areas, and we'll get into that as well. We need to take a brief break. We're very pleased to have with us Kathleen Miller of Living Grace Homes right here in Las Vegas. We'll be back with more right after this.
Drawn by the lights, glamour, and opportunities in Sin City, they come from all over the world, searching for their chance to be a pretty woman, a success, or maybe just to have a better life. Be somebody. What happened after they got here is literally changing the world. From the story of Tommy Scott, a former gang enforcer turned Christian evangelist, to the Hookers for Jesus Outreach Ministry, to the heart-wrenching story of Arturo Martinez and his heroic act of forgiving the man who assaulted and murdered his wife and 10-year-old daughter. Las Vegas Tonight presents an extraordinary depiction of Las Vegas as a city of transformation, from Sin City to Vegas Saints. Las Vegas Tonight, from Sin City to Vegas Saints, a collection of true stories of transformation, people whose lives were transformed, and people who are now transforming the world.
I am created for a purpose, and I am home.
And welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. We're very pleased to have with us Kathleen Miller of Living Grace Homes, and also a longtime board member of First Choice Pregnancy Centers.
Yes.
Yeah, right here in Las Vegas. Let's talk about First Choice for just a second. It's
actually First Choice Pregnancy Services.
Services, right? Okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. It's a very busy pro-life pregnancy center in Las Vegas, one of the busiest in the country. Tell me how you got involved with them.
Well, First Choice, I believe, is the third pregnancy center to have opened in Las Vegas, and we are, we're right up there in the number of abortions that are performed. The first one was Lifeline, and it was a full-service crisis pregnancy center.
Right.
And then a gentleman and his wife moved here from Boston, and they were very familiar with the pregnancy centers in Boston. And so they got a little bit involved with the second pregnancy center, which is Women's Resource Medical Center, but felt that there were some elements missing, and that there was certainly room in the Las Vegas Valley for more services to women in crisis pregnancies.
Sure.
And so Olaf Van Cura, who was the founder, he and his wife Kathy, spent a couple of years traveling the country, searching and visiting other pregnancy centers. And I had met Olaf through my work with actually the Catholic Diocese and Lights for Life, the vigil in January on the anniversary of Roe versus Wade.
I've been there. Yeah.
And we had numerous conversations about the need and so forth. And so once he found a location, he played it pretty close to his vest. Once he found a location and got on a roll, he called me on a pretty regular basis looking for a pro-life painter and a pro-life carpenter and pro-life roofer. So,
wow.
And those conversations, looking for someone, always led into longer conversations. So when they opened their doors, I think he actually asked me to sit on the board about 2 months after they opened, because at that point it was simply he and his wife Kathy that made up the board. So I was the first non-family member that sat on the board, and so we're approaching 10 years for the center. It opened in December of 2004, so we're approaching the anniversary. And I think that my 10-year anniversary will come probably around April or May.
That's wonderful. And thank you for your work. And thank you to the Van Curas, too, for a wonderful service that they've done for Las Vegas.
Yes.
Tell me about Living Grace Home. You saw a need.
I really didn't.
Yeah. No?
Everybody else saw a need. I just kept saying, I'm busy.
And they said, who needs to do this?
Right,
Kathleen needs to do this.
I just said, somebody decides to open up a place like that, you let me know, I'll help them however I can.
Yeah.
Took about 4 years to figure out that God had changed my name to somebody.
Yeah.
And so
you were
I started
elected.
working on it.
You were elected.
Yes.
And then tell us a little bit about the process. How do you decide? Okay, I'm going to have a maternity home. I'm going to help these young girls. Then what? What happens then? Do you have to find a location first, or what do you need to do?
Well, I thought I had a location, and God said no, and He said do some more research. So that needed to be done first. So I spent 5 years gathering information, trying to bring people on board in terms of finance and learning how to do it, because that's not something that I'd ever done before.
Yeah.
I'd operated my own home, and that was about it.
Yeah.
So I went up to Reno and met with the staff at Casa de Vida, which had been open almost 30 years at that
House
point.
of Life.
And
yes,
and it's been open for a long time. It opened in a little cottage that belonged to the nuns behind the Catholic Hospital in Reno.
Wow.
And then somebody donated land, and they built a beautiful home up there. And they were very welcoming and gave us their policies and procedures and their rules for operating, and just kind of walked me through the ropes.
Okay.
And then we did we had a 501c3 with Nevadans for Life. So initially we opened under that 501c3 and then put in the work to separate it and have a freestanding 501c3 that is Living Grace Homes Incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now, one more question about the finances, and then I want to talk a little bit about what living in the home is like. It's always difficult with a ministry, I have personal experience, to get the money you need to operate.
Yes.
What are some of your secrets? I know it's been difficult for you at times, but I know also that you have survived and thrived. You have now opened a second home.
Right.
Aside from the fact that the Holy Spirit's on your side, if there is any aside once you say that,
Right.
How are you keeping the doors open?
I beg.
You're good at it.
I beg. I
it.
speak at churches and let's see, what was McNamara's? I play at wakes and weddings and at every fancy ball. I speak at Rotary at 7 o'clock in the morning. I speak at 6:30 Mass at St. Francis de Sales, wherever they're going to pass the hat and collect a few bucks.
Mm-hmm.
We opened our doors February 1st of 2007. Our financial record for November of 2006 showed that we had $299.30 in the bank.
All you needed.
Right?
The Lord dealt with that,
Yes.
right? And He made it work.
Yes.
We're going to talk with Kathleen Miller some more in just a minute. We need to take a brief break. And when we come back, what's a day in the life at Living Grace Home? We'll be back with Kathleen Miller and much more right after this. Hello, I'm Dale Davidson. I hope you're enjoying Las Vegas tonight. The guests we've had on the program are wonderful examples of Christians who take seriously Christ's command to love one another. In addition to the hundreds of television stations across the United States now carrying our show, we have been presented with the outstanding opportunity to bring these inspiring stories to people around the world. An international satellite network in the Russian and Ukrainian languages has asked us to provide them with episodes to be broadcast to millions. To make a gift to support this very special effort, please send your check or money order to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. To use your credit or debit card, call 702-480-3989. Thank you, and God bless you. And welcome to Las Vegas tonight. I'm Dale Davidson. We are back with Kathleen Miller, the president, the executive director of Living Grace Homes, right here in Las Vegas, doing a terrific service in the pro-life arena. Let me first of all, before we go on with what happens and how do you get the girls, I want to make it crystal clear to people that you would more than welcome donations and volunteers.
Yes.
Right? www.livinggracehome.com is their web address, and you can make a donation right on the web.
Every page.
Okay. And the telephone number is 702-212-6472, and we'll put that information up on the screen for you as well. And please feel free to help because they need it. Talk about the girls. How do the girls come to Living Grace Home?
Well, it actually is interesting because the very first two girls that we had, one came from First Choice Pregnancy Services, the other one came from Women's Resource Medical Center.
One from each of the
crisis pregnancy centers. Yes,
yeah, that's great. Symbolic.
It is. It is. We have had 145 young ladies who have spent part or all of their pregnancy at Living Grace Home, and they are referred by the pregnancy centers. By Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth, street teens, high school counselors, social workers, nurses refer the girls. Help of Southern Nevada. Any of the agencies that deal with this age population know that we're around and refer the girls to us. I would say the first 6.5 years, we did a very good job of getting word out to those agencies that
I was going to ask
serve.
you, to get on everybody's Rolodex is no
Yes.
small task.
I just as I begged for money, I went and spoke to every group. I went to the health department. I went to the school social workers. I met with the director at Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth. I became part of the Homeless Coalition. Any place that served this population, and that is pregnant girls from 14 to 22 who are either homeless or in danger of becoming homeless as a result of their pregnancy. Last year I realized that I'd done a very good job of getting the word out to those organizations, but not so much to the business community and to the community that really is waiting to help support a program such as Living Grace Home
and
get the girls help
why
these girls
shows
get
like
back
this,
on their feet, help them become productive members of the community, help them get that first job, help them finish high school, take them under their wing and mentor them. We have some absolutely wonderful Christian businesses in the community and some wonderful women-owned businesses in the community that need to know that Living Grace Home is helping groom these young ladies to be responsible parents and responsible citizens.
In that genre, in that vein, reading your information on the web, you have some pretty stringent rules, don't you? You make them work. You make them.
We do.
You make them follow rules of the house,
yes,
and so on. So it's more than just we're going to give you a roof over your head. Yeah.
Yes, they have a curfew. They have actually when we do the intake, it includes 10 pages of rules that they are required to sign off on each page. Then they get a copy of those rules with an opportunity to learn them. But we also have in the kitchen is posted the rules for the kitchen. In the laundry room, we have a laundry day for each girl. In each bedroom is posted the rooms for maintaining their bedroom, so that I don't have to listen to, I didn't know I was supposed to make my bed every day. So they are typical teenagers, right?
But yeah.
They're
when you're a
typical
teenager,
teenagers.
that's it. Yeah.
And so, and the rules are to help them develop good habits, good discipline, so that they will be able to parent their child in a safe, clean environment.
Now, if they're a teenager, do they go to the local high school, or how do they maintain their education while they're pregnant?
We had them going to Green Valley High School. It was not a very good fit.
Really?
And so we found an alternative high school, the Sunset program at Cowan, and it is a credit retrieval program. They go from about 1:50 in the afternoon until 8:30 at night, and they have on-site childcare.
Oh, okay.
And so once the babies are born, once they're 3 months old, the girls can take the babies to school with them. When they're on break or on lunch, they can go in and spend that time with their child and facilitate the bonding and attachment that is so important for these babies and their moms.
Oh, sure. Which many of them probably lacked in their own lives.
Yes.
Tell me, just so people are clear about it, and I'm clear about it, when you say they're in danger of losing their home, or they in fact have lost their home, does that equate to they got kicked out of their house because they were pregnant?
Yes. But it's not necessarily their parents' house, because many times they have already left their parents' home, and so they're either living with another relative, a grandparent, an aunt, uncle, older sibling, or they're living with a boyfriend or some girlfriends, and the pregnancy is inconvenient for other people that are there. Of the girls that have been there, the 145 young ladies who've spent part or all of their time there, a third of them have actually gone home to a family member, sometimes even before the baby's born.
Oh, really?
Right.
That's a happy ending.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is my preference, if at all possible, to help facilitate the reunification of families.
Sure.
Because we're kind of a poor substitute. We call our employees house parents because they fulfill a parental role, but we can't replace their mom or their dad.
Yeah.
Another third do not make it through the program because they either can't or won't follow the rules. And so about a third of them complete the program, stay for the duration of their pregnancy, are enrolled in school, get a job, and then stay for up to 3 months after the baby's born to get that additional support while they are staying at home and nursing the baby and learning parenting skills. And some of them already know everything there is to know about children. It's amazing how that happens.
Teenagers know everything about everything, Kathleen.
They do.
How convenient.
Yes, yes. And then I don't want to toot my own horn, but I have to say it's always funny for me to walk into an area where the conversation is going on, and I hear one young mom using my words to tell another young mom how she's supposed to be doing this, but they would never admit that Kathleen said.
Kathleen never told me this. I knew it right along.
I already knew. I already knew not to prop the ball when they were 2 weeks old. I already knew that. You didn't have to tell me.
You get to be a parent over and over and over again, Kathleen.
I do.
You see?
I do.
And there are joys to that, and there are difficulties as well.
Right. Yes. My family has been very involved in Living Grace Home because I spend so much time there.
Yeah, I'm sure
and,
you do.
One of my daughter's husbands works for Southern Wine and Spirits, and so they help with the galas and events.
That's great.
And sometimes the girls will complain to my girls about things that I have done, and my girls just roll their eyes and say,
"You think that's tough?
Like we don't already know." You're not telling me.
You're talking about
my
our mom. Well, we'll be back with Mom Miller in just a minute. We're going to take a brief break, and then we're going to talk about how you're expanding this beyond one home and helping these young ladies with more in their lives, which is a wonderful thing. We'll be back with more on Las Vegas Tonight and Kathleen Miller right after this.
A potential audience of more than 50 million people is reached every week by Las Vegas Tonight. To keep the important message of Christ's love on the air, we need your prayers and financial blessings. Please send your tax-deductible gift to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. For a donation of $25 or more, we'll send you a copy of Dale Davidson's new book, Las Vegas Tonight, From Sin City to Vegas Saints. You'll love these inspiring stories of Las Vegas Christians who are changing the world. Or donate to the ministry, or order Dale's book by going to vegassaints.org. That's vegassaints.org. Or call us today at 702-480-3989. That's 480-3989. God bless you.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. We're here with Kathleen Miller, Executive Director of the Living Grace Homes and I want to emphasize the S on that because now we have more than one. Tell us a little bit about the second home and what you had in mind when you decided we need to expand.
Well, honestly, when I was working on opening Living Grace Home, I feel like God gave me a vision for a 3-phase plan.
Oh, really?
For Living Grace Homes. And so that's why when we incorporated it, it was plural.
Oh.
The second home is what's a transition home. Our age range of 14 to 22 finds young ladies who are not able to finish high school or a vocational training program by the time they have their baby and the baby is 3 months old, which is the length of time that they can stay at the first house.
Okay.
And so the second house is for those young ladies so that they can finish their high school career, that they can perhaps finish a vocational training program and get a job and start making a paycheck so that they can move into their own place. With that young age range, that means that some of those young ladies needs to stay significantly longer. And so at the second house, they can stay for up to 2 years after the baby is born.
That's great.
And so if they come relatively early in their pregnancy to the first home, they can be in the program for almost 3 years. And that home opened with the help of Kathleen Vermillion when she was on the city council in Henderson, and the entire city council and neighborhood services department helped with purchasing the home and remodeling it. And so that one is free and clear. We have no mortgage on that,
great.
Which helps on our budget. And the grand opening, the ribbon cutting was March 1st. By early April, the house was full. We have 4 moms and 4 babies that are residing there. We have one that is a little bit older that will be transitioning out within the next few months.
That's great.
And then we have one that's 17 that will probably be there until she graduates from high school.
Really? Now, obviously, your donors are funding the bulk of this, but you do ask when the girls are working to contribute.
Yes.
Don't you? Yeah.
Yes,
and
that's
how does that work?
It's a very insignificant part of our income, but the goal is to help them become responsible. And once they leave Living Grace Home, they will have to be able to budget and pay for rent and so forth. And so they
need
pay.
to know about these things. Yeah.
Yes, there's a maximum amount that they pay, but they pay up to $400 a month. And they put a portion of each paycheck toward that. And
it's a sliding scale based on their ability to pay.
Yes, no one has ever been turned away from Living Grace for inability to pay.
Right.
And if God willing, no one ever will be. But it is important for them to have an understanding that to be good citizens of their community, that they need to be able to be self-supporting.
Sure.
And so learning to get a job and budget that and figure, okay, 30% of my income needs to go for housing, and another 7% for utilities, and another 10% for transportation. And so you're now up to close to 50%. And so they need to understand that that's what it's going to be like when they leave the home.
Yeah.
And some of them kind of struggle with that concept because we should
It's
be
not
doing it
just
for
them
free.
either, by the way. Yeah.
Right.
Budgeting is not that easy.
Yeah, because if you're a nonprofit, you should be doing this for free. But really, the amount that they contribute is not a significant part of our budget, but it is a significant part of their education.
Sure. And your food bill alone has to be astronomical, I would think. How many moms and babies are in either one of the homes at any given time?
Our capacity in the first home is 8, any combination of girls and babies.
Okay.
So we can have 5 or 6 girls and 2 or 3 babies in that home. The second home is more specific. It is for moms and their babies, because it is for those moms who have already delivered their baby but who are not yet ready to move into independent living and don't have that supportive family structure to go home to.
Wow. Are they truly, obviously they are because you're doing a good job, but are they learning what a functional family looks and feels like? Because many of them probably came out of pretty dysfunctional situations, didn't they? Is that a hard thing for them to learn by the time they're in their teens or 20s?
It is.
Yeah.
It is hard for them. The first article that was in the Review Journal, the headline was something my mom used to say, and that's, "They don't come to us from finishing school." They have been abused, abandoned, neglected, and once they're in fact, I had this conversation with a young lady today who was telling me how there were things that she just couldn't talk to her mom about. She couldn't say to her mom, kind of walked in on eggshells. But she has no trouble when she's mad at me telling me just what for.
Well, she trusts you.
And
That's the difference.
I just said, "Honey, do you realize how backwards that is? that you feel safer telling me where to get off than you do telling your mom how you feel?" And she said, "But I know that you're not going to kick me out." No?
Which is the way it's supposed to be at home.
Yes.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Do any of them come to Christ while they're there? Do they learn about the love of Jesus?
We operate on the St. Francis of Assisi model,
Okay.
and that is spread the gospel every day. When necessary, use words.
Right. Yeah. That's one of my favorite quotes.
But we are a faith-based home, and so I will often tell the girls, I don't get federal money, and I don't get federal money because I don't go after federal money, because I want to be able to say God, 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 all I want. Mm-hmm. And so if you're sitting across from me in my office and you tell me that you went through this elaborate plan in order to have sex with your boyfriend, and I'm going to tell you that you planned on sinning,
mm-hmm.
that's because that's what God says.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get mad at me about that if you want, but you know what? God gave you the power of no. As a woman, He gave you the power of no. And if you don't use that, you're not using one of the greatest gifts that He gave you. And when it comes to your sexuality, the power of no is the most powerful thing that you have. Because any guy that won't take no for an answer is not worth having. Kick him to the curb. Find one that realizes that you're worth waiting for. So, more so one-on-one in my office, but I also do morning scripture readings with my husband. And if there's one that trips my fancy, then the girls know that I'm going to walk in and say, "Oh, everybody in the living room, come on. Read this really good reading this morning." No, we pass it around, and they join in, and they read the scripture, and they read the meditation, and then we talk about how that applies to their life, what it means to them. How did you feel reading about the woman caught in adultery and being dragged through the streets, and she was the one that the light was on, that was, she was the guilty one, and she knew that they were going to stone her, that is the penalty for adultery. And how did you feel? Did that make you squirm at all? And we have some pretty interesting conversations.
Some responses.
Pretty interesting conversations.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
We'll be back with Kathleen. We're going to talk about the future and what your dreams are as far as Living Grace homes are concerned when we come back. We'll be back with more right after this.
1, 2, 3. Cut.
Drawn by the lights, glamour, and opportunities in Sin City, they come from all over the world, searching for their chance to be a pretty woman, a success, or maybe just to have a better life. Be somebody. What happened after they got here is literally changing the world. From the story of Tommy Scott, a former gang enforcer turned Christian evangelist, to the Hookers for Jesus Outreach Ministry, to the heart-wrenching story of Arturo Martinez and his heroic act of forgiving the man who assaulted and murdered his wife and 10-year-old daughter. Las Vegas Tonight presents an extraordinary depiction of Las Vegas as a city of transformation, from Sin City to Vegas Saints. Las Vegas Tonight, from Sin City to Vegas Saints, a collection of true stories of transformation, people whose lives were transformed, and people who are now transforming the world.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. We're with Kathleen Miller, who's the Executive Director of Living Grace Homes. Kathleen, give us a for instance of one girl's life that you think is illustrative of what it's all about.
Well, as I said earlier, they don't come to us from finishing school. They've often been through some very difficult times. And early in our time at Living Grace, there was a young lady who was 16, and she was literally dropped on our doorstep. She had been kicked out of her grandparents' house, her grandmother's house, because her grandmother's husband didn't like her. And so her boyfriend's parents let her move in with them, and voila, all of a sudden she was pregnant at 16, and they were like, okay, well, we don't know what to do with her. Do you have room? And I said, sure, bring her over, thinking they would bring her in and we'd meet, and no. They dropped her off, opened the door, bye-bye, never saw him again. And she was there. She was an extremely wounded child. She had been abandoned a lot. Her mom would come and get her from grandma's and take off with her and be in homeless shelters and disappear for 2 or 3 days and come back just in time before they called CPS. And so she wasn't in the system, but she needed to be. Got her enrolled in school, got her started with her prenatal care, and about 4 weeks after she got there, she miscarried. And she was, to this day, she's the only young lady who has lost her baby at Living Grace Home. After she lost the baby, she had a nervous breakdown, ended up in an institution for 30 days. And when she came back, she did not want to be at Living Grace. She didn't want to be around those pregnant girls. She didn't want to be around babies. And she was really angry at us for putting her in the institution. And so once she left Living Grace, I saw her about a month later and then didn't hear from her. That would have been in late 2008. In January of this year, I got one of, and this is generally how they start a text or an email, is, I don't know if you remember me, but, and at this point with 145 girls, I still do remember all of them.
Oh, that's
and she wanted to know, she said she was married and she was pregnant with their first child, and could she bring her husband by to introduce him and show me the ultrasounds of her baby.
Oh, how sweet.
And so in texting back and forth, and of course I said yes, but in texting back and forth, she said, you know, I really didn't appreciate what was being done for me at Living Grace. She said, I was so angry that I just couldn't see what you were doing for me. But when I look back, I'm so glad that you were there. And my text back to her was, honey, if you weren't angry about what was going on in your life, there would have been something wrong with you. And so we stayed in touch, and her baby boy was born June 7th, and she posted his picture on the Living Grace Facebook page. So
that's so sweet. Holding the babies, is that the best reward for what you do?
Rocking the babies is wonderful, and I love each and every one of the babies, but I love the moms. Seeing them realize that they are not a mistake, that their baby is not a mistake, that they have an opportunity to turn their lives around and move forward, finish high school, go to college, get a job, get married, live a productive life, and that this baby that came at what was not an opportune time gives them the opportunity to look at it either as a stepping stone or a stumbling block. And we want each and every one of them to succeed succeed not by the world's standards, but by God's standards.
And God bless you for the work you do.
Thank you.
It's phenomenal. And
Thank
it's
you.
such a blessing to
Send
so many
money
people.
now. Oh,
But yeah,
yes.
let's talk about that actually right now. Once again, livingracehome.com, www.livingracehome.com. You can learn a great deal, much more than we were able to cover in our limited amount of time, at what goes on at Living Grace Homes. And also, you welcome telephone calls, 702-212-6472. That's 702-212-6472. And you would welcome volunteers, would you?
Our brochure for donors says we need 3 things from you. Donate. We need money. We need in-kind donations. We need a van, a large van. We need advocacy. We need people out there telling our story and sharing our story, so that other people know that we're there, both to refer young ladies, but also for people who want to support a home like Living Grace Home, and the young ladies that are there. And we need volunteers. We have a very small staff. Each house has a house parent and a part-time supervisor to give that house parent a break. We share 1 social worker between 2 homes, 1 executive director between homes, and 1 office staff between 2 homes. And everything else is done with volunteers. We transport the girls to all their necessary appointments, and so we depend on volunteers. They're their lifeblood. So donate, advocate, and volunteer.
And so there are things for men to do as well as women? I mean, you have projects for them?
There are, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
So please give Kathleen a call. Once again, 702-212-6472, men and women. And she wants more than just your money, although she'll take it. But she also wants your volunteer hours, and most of all, she wants your prayers.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. God bless you.
Thank you.
Kathleen Miller of Living Grace Homes right here in Las Vegas. Thanks for watching. There's plenty more coming up on this station. And most of all, we want you to please walk with Him. Hello, I'm Dale Davidson. I hope you're enjoying Las Vegas tonight. The guests we've had on the program are wonderful examples of Christians who take seriously Christ's command to love one another. In addition to the hundreds of television stations across the United States now carrying our show, we have been presented with the outstanding opportunity to bring these inspiring stories to people around the world. An international satellite network in the Russian and Ukrainian languages has asked us to provide them with episodes to be broadcast to millions. To make a gift to support this very special effort, please send your check or money order to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. To use your credit or debit card, call 702-480-3989. Thank you, and God bless you.
A potential audience of more than 50 million people is reached every week by Las Vegas Tonight. To keep the important message of Christ's love on the air, we need your prayers and financial blessings. Please send your tax-deductible gift to Dale Davidson Ministries, 9030 West Sahara Avenue, number 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. For a donation of $25 or more, we'll send you a copy of Dale Davidson's new book, Las Vegas Tonight, From Sin City to Vegas Saints. You'll love these inspiring stories of Las Vegas Christians who are changing the world. Or donate to the ministry, or order Dale's book by going to vegassaints.org. That's vegassaints.org. Or call us today at 702-480-3989. That's 480-3989. God bless you. You've been watching Las Vegas Tonight with Dale Davidson. Send your tax-deductible gifts to Dale Davidson.